We have a lot to uncover in today's episode of The Angle Show. It's about to get spicy right here on TAS. Yes. All right, first and foremost, I want to jump right into some WWE news, less than stellar stuff coming out. Apparently, Tama Tonga might be joining the Bloodline. Okay, I really don't know if this is something we should seriously consider. I sure as hell don't believe WWE should consider this. And of course, it is coming from Dave Meltzer, and you guys know how I feel about Dave Meltzer's reports. There's just a lot of inconsistency. But Dave Meltzer has reported that Tama is considered part of the family by Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, Roman Reigns, and others. And the idea of him being in the Bloodline in some form has been considered. And I personally just want to let you guys know on the record that this is unacceptable to me. I really don't think WWE should prolong Cody's chase. At some point, the fans are going to get sick and tired of it. And, the first WrestleMania 39, when Cody lost, I agreed with that. I said that should be the case. That's what I predicted. But I said the idea of it should be another 1 year storyline of him getting back to the top. It would be very detrimental to WWE, in my opinion, if they had Tama Tonga debut at WrestleMania 40 and screw over Cody. Now, the only interesting element to this that I think is kind of cool is that Tama Tonga and Cody Rhodes do have a little bit of history because of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Obviously, we're all pretty well aware of the Bullet Club. So I could see that element being a cool factor into it, but I don't want to see Cody not win the belt. So I don't know what the hell they got to do here or how they're going to go about it. But at the end of the day, if WWE is seriously considering Tama Tonga to join the Bloodline, I think this is a recipe for disaster. Now, with that being said, I will add this. If they want Tama Tonga to join the Bloodline after Roman loses the belt, that is something I could be okay with, right? The Rock starting his own Bloodline versus Roman Reigns' Bloodline, which would be Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and The Rock versus Roman Reigns, Jay, and Jimmy Uso as baby faces. That is something I'd be willing to accept. But if this has anything to do with Cody not winning the belt at WrestleMania 40, I 100% reject the idea. I want to turn our attention to WWE SummerSlam 2024 because today we found out from WrestleVotes that it very much looks like WWE is close to finalizing the location. Now, several months ago, we talked about Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select's report that WWE was considering the Cleveland Browns Stadium in Ohio. Now, WrestleVotes has come out and said SummerSlam 2024 has been rumored for Cleveland, as SRS hinted months ago. I'm told that through sources, WWE is close to finalizing a deal with Cleveland Browns Stadium to host the event on Saturday, August 3rd, and the formal announcement should come in April. So this is very interesting. Obviously, for WWE SummerSlam, we just had it in Detroit. I was very happy with my experience with SummerSlam coming to Detroit. I like the idea of SummerSlam kind of hitting the Midwest. I think it's kind of cool. I think one of the big things for me personally is that for a long time, SummerSlam was in Brooklyn, New York. And then, all these stadium shows, they typically go to Florida or California or Vegas or New Orleans or something like that. So I think it's actually really cool that some of the Midwest states that don't get a lot of entertainment, and their football teams don't win Super Bowls. It's kind of cool that they get something of this magnitude. I think Cleveland should be fun. I think, even being from Detroit, it could be worth the travel because it's not long or far at all, really. It might be something for me to consider going to. I don't know. I think SummerSlam is a very, very interesting thing because Detroit is not really a summer destination, nor is Cleveland. There's no palm trees over here. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see how that goes. It should be very interesting, obviously. And when WWE makes that formal announcement, we'll see how they go about it. I'm really curious to see how they go about it from a branding perspective too, but obviously time will tell. And now I want to turn our attention to AEW. Things are getting spicy, ladies and gentlemen. Miro has revealed on social media that he has been injured for a while now. And this is okay. So here's the thing. Word comes out that Miro is supposed to be added to the Meat Madness match at Revolution. I did a live stream reviewing Dynamite Long story short, if you didn't watch it, I thought it was a pretty solid episode. But AEW announced a match, and then they said, hey, this match is not going through because there's injuries. But the people that were announced for the match didn't have the injured people in the match. It was really strange and really confusing. Miro, going on Twitter, has revealed that he is injured. And it's actually really funny because this tweet that he puts out, by the way, he says, I have been injured since September and I got medical attention in January. Sorry he wasn't aware of it, in reference to Tony Khan. Now, I don't know what the hell is going on here. I don't know if there's an issue between Miro and AEW. There's always been rumors that Miro wants to leave AEW, but that's just internet wrestling rumors, right? Nothing that I've heard directly from him. So at that point, it's safe to assume that maybe there is no drama. But why would Tony Khan not be notified of his injury? Or why would Tony Khan not be aware of things? Well, it's really hard to say, but I could tell you guys that there was a time period several months ago, maybe a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago at this point, where Chavo Guerrero publicly talked about communication issues with Tony Khan and how he was very hard to get a hold of. And there was other people who said the same thing. So I don't know if that's a factor here. I don't know what the issue is here with AEW and the communication aspect of things. But one thing I will tell you, Tony Khan revealing a match for Revolution and not realizing that Keith Lee and Miro, because don't forget Keith Lee was supposed to be part of this, those two guys, by the way, have not been on weekly television. Tony Khan would have just announced them in the match, or he didn't know. This is fishy. Okay, that's the first thing. But also, it's just stupid booking. You don't have Miro and Keith Lee and Lance Archer and all of these guys building a storyline for Revolution, and you just want to give them a gimmick match because they're all bigger wrestlers. Like, I think it's just silly. It shows a huge flaw in their booking, and I'm not the only one who thinks this because apparently the AEW roster agrees. Very interestingly enough, yesterday or 2 days ago, I talked about how the backstage morale seems to be pretty damn good. You know, RVD talking very highly of AEW backstage. Well, now, again, it's coming from the Wrestling Observer. I don't know if we should trust this or not, but it's something worth actually looking into. Brian Alvarez has noted that there is a growing frustration among talent backstage about people not wanting to do jobs, Tony Khan's not enforcing it, and a lack of communication. A lot of people are very frustrated because they don't find out the Tuesday before like some people do. I mean, some people will know what they're doing because they are like a couple of matches usually advertised in advance, but most people are showing up to the day of the show and they find out whether they're doing anything or not at that time. Guys, this is the exact issue that Vince McMahon's regime had. Not letting people know what they were doing ahead of time, people traveling for no reason, and quite honestly, Tony Khan has turned AEW into everything he said it wouldn't be. Now, I know that statement is going to offend a lot of people, but if you don't believe me, just look at the track record. Tony Khan said a lot of things. AEW as a company said a lot of things from their mission statement. That press conference in Las Vegas, and I promise you this company is not the same as they promised. And it's okay. I think they're actually creating compelling TV right now. I just think there's a lot of flaws with their television show as well. So for as good as they have a lot of bad, and those things need to get worked on. But of course, talent are going to be unhappy. And guess what? It doesn't get better if it doesn't get talked about. So if that means I have to talk about it, I will. I talked about it during the Vince McMahon regime. Last minute booking, not having long-term plans. It's bullshit. It's bullshit for the fan experience too, by the way, because you can tell when you're watching the show when something is just thrown together last minute. You can tell when it doesn't make sense. And that's been happening a lot. So at the end of the day, I'm going to call it out because I talk about wrestling. And if I'm going to talk about the good and I'm going to praise these companies, then I'm also going to talk about where they're falling short and their missed opportunities. So if you consider that hate, maybe that's a problem more along yourself and not mine, because I think AEW could do better. They've been doing better, but I think they could do even better. And if talent feel frustrated, imagine that. Talent are not going to want to work at a job where they're not happy at their job. And this is why people leave WWE and people leave AEW. And the best thing you could do is try to retain as much talent as possible by making changes. And that right there is exactly what needs to happen. Clearly, change needs to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Angle Show.